Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan, that is Sal, and today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, the animated series. The one that, according to Sal, you all have been waiting for.
That's right. It's arguably the best Spider-Man cartoon, best version of Spider-Man of all time. Christopher Daniel Barnes, best Spider-Man ever, according to everybody else. I like him. I think he's great. And I grew up watching this cartoon, so I'm well-versed in this animated series, though I do say Spectacular is superior.
Yeah, I think, while watching this, until you said Spectacular, I think I forgot Spectacular exists. But while watching this, I was like, "Oh, this might be my favorite Spider-Man cartoon." But yeah, I'd have to finish watching this and then go back and rewatch Spectacular to see.
Yeah, this has a lot going for it. It's got a killer theme. It's got a brilliant voice cast. They're not afraid because of the X-Men animated series influence to go episodic and serialized with it, to be like, this is an ongoing, sprawling narrative. I think to the show's detriment, unfortunately, because we elected to talk about Morbius the Living Vampire because he's getting a movie and Spider-Man, but it's also part of the Neogenic Nightmare arc. Every season had an arc and was just like previously on Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I watched, so I didn't get around to watching the Morbius episode, but one of the episodes I did watch had Morbius in it, which was strange. So I watched the first episode, so the lizard episode, Night of the Lizard.
Excellent episode. Yes.
Great episode. And then I skipped the next two, because my plan was to do what I did with Iron Man, which is to watch just the first two episodes of the first two seasons. But they immediately go episodic, because the second episode is the first part of the Spider Slayer.
The Spider Slayer arc, which is great too, yeah.
So I skipped ahead to the Dr. Octopus episode, which was episode 4.
Great episode too, yeah.
Also a great episode. And then I just finished watching the premiere of season 2, which is, I guess, the first part of the Insidious 6.
Yes.
Which is also very fun. But Morbius shows up in that, along with Felicia Hardy again. She was in the Dr. Octopus episode, and I assume the Spider Slayers episodes, because
Felicia Hardy may be in almost every single episode of the show.
Yeah. Which is strange. Is she not Black Cat? Does she never become Black Cat?
She becomes Black Cat, I think, season 3.
Okay.
Maybe 4. It's a lot longer than you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Like for
There's
some
like 5
reason,
seasons of this show.
Yeah, it's a long show, and they, I don't know if Carnage comes out before or after Black Cat. It's really weird. Hobgoblin's the first goblin in the canon of the animated series,
which is nuts. He's in the intro and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's in the intro and played by Mark Hamill, where he's just doing the Joker. But
nice.
That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, no, Jennifer Hale's playing Felicia Hardy. She's great. I loved her Felicia, despite the fact that it's nothing like Felicia from the comics.
And that's like, I was so like kind of caught off guard to the point where I was like, am I remembering Black Cat's name right? Like, is this a different character?
No, this show is really weird with characters. Like, for example, Deborah Whitman is in this show. And I'm like,
she is.
What a footnote. No Betty Brant. Yes, Deborah Whitman. We don't introduce Mary Jane until after Felicia Hardy. Gwen Stacy shows up in an alternate reality at the end of the show.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say, like, Deborah kind of fills the role that Gwen normally would, because in the show, Peter's at college, and his cast kind of revolves around that era. And, it's weird because they like took Gwen Stacy and split her up into Felicia Hardy and Deborah Whitman.
Yep.
Which is odd.
It's really a weird choice, but it worked for the show.
Yeah, and I didn't question anything this show did in the 3 episodes that I watched, to the degree where I was like, well, that's weird. Like, a lot of the stuff in Spider-Man Unlimited, which I enjoyed, but I won't go back to watch probably, was just, I enjoyed that because it was so different, and it was so dumb and very, very 90s. But this show is just like, this is a Spider-Man show, and it's like well made. Like, this is the first out of probably any of the shows that we've watched in this like series so far that like makes an effort to explain what's going on and like who these characters are.
Yeah, it gets lazier as the show progresses because
good.
Well, not that it's in any way less, substantive in the writing or in the character development, but rather it like just goes far up its own ass, and they're also trying to save money on their budget, so they keep reusing animation. And you hear stories about when they were developing the Batman animated series where they were fighting against the notes from the network on a constant basis. The network was always throwing them notes and them always having this fight where they're like, no, we got to do this. And there's these compromises and these moves where they're just like, he can't go through glass. And they're like, well, what if he goes through a plate glass? Like, what if they don't show the shattering? Like there's all this give and take. And with this show, they were just happy to have the show. So when the network gave them a note, they just rolled over every time. They were like, does it have to be a bullet? Can everyone carry laser guns to make it a little less violent? Yes, everyone can have laser guns. Every 2-bit hood can have laser guns. Cops have laser guns. Everyone's got laser guns. No bullets to be had in this show. Can anyone say kill? Can we remove that word from everyone's vernacular entirely? Absolutely. Yes, that. Does anyone have to get punched? Can you have no one punch anybody? Yes, we can. No one punches anyone except in that one Spot episode. Otherwise, if you watch that show, no one is punched.
Wait, are you saying they made an episode on Spot?
Yeah, there's a whole episode dedicated to the Spot.
A whole episode, wow.
And he punches the Spot. And that's the one. Everyone else, 5 seasons, no punches thrown.
Wow.
People are picked up and thrown. People are pivoted and kicked, but like no punches. It's just really weird.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I didn't notice that. But like I think it is just like in an era like this, it's hard to pay attention to the animation to a degree where like you're really kind of eating it up, just because like, at least for someone like me who has never really studied animation and isn't a 2D artist in any sense of the word, other than I guess like video editing, but I don't draw things, I don't animate things in that way. So it's, I see it and I'm just like, yeah, that's a Spider-Man show. That's what it would look like. And like, it's not bad. It's not incredible. It's very serviceable.
No, it is.
It gets the job done.
Well, if you don't care about any of those things, it's way easier to accept. But there's moments where, like, you'll see the same web swinging over and over and over again. Or Spider-Man will twirl in one room and land outside in another area, and then they'll just cut back. Like, they just go, well, he needs to land. Use a piece. Like, where are we? Are we in a building? Okay, then use any building where he landed already. Yeah. And it's just, by the time we get to season 5, they couldn't care less. Like, it was pretty noticeable around the end of season 1, season 2. But by season 3, they're like, no one cares. It's an action figure commercial.
I did notice in the premiere of season 2, there's a scene where, I forget who he's talking to, but Peter is... he's talking to Spider-Man is talking to Kurt Connors because he's like losing his powers or something.
Yes.
And he recounts his origin to Kurt.
The lizard. Yeah.
Yeah, to the lizard. And they reuse the scenes from the intro.
And that's fine. That's a flashback. Yeah. Like, that makes sense. No, I don't mind them flashing back. I'm telling you, they reused shots to substitute in. And then there's moments where you'll see their lines get all jagged because they're like, we got to pad the runtime. Have the character just slow down.
I did notice that.
Yeah, they're just dialing. Can we make the animation a little slower? Like, yeah, but it'll be artifacted. It's for children. Who cares?
No one will notice. Nobody has TVs that are good enough to see that.
I gotta tell you, man, I noticed it back then too. I was like, ugh.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, ugh. And I think it's because we were spoiled, right? I had Batman, the animated series, I had Gargoyles, like, I had other shows that were trying. And then there was this one that was doing everything. Like, everyone was firing on all cylinders except for the animation budget.
Oh, speaking of Batman and Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah.
No, completely different pivot. The premiere of season 2 has Spider-Man talking to a gargoyle
named Bruce.
Named Bruce, which I love.
Yeah, he does that throughout the entire series.
That's lovely.
I like it because it's a great like narrative way to have Spider-Man share his thoughts out loud.
Yeah,
and he talks out his problems. It's something I identified really, really strongly with as a kid because I did that too, and I was like, "Hey, cool! That like makes me feel less weird."
This show is definitely, it's very good about like making because you go back and you watch the first Spider-Man show that we talked about,
the 81 show,
the 81 show, and it's very much like Peter's always talking. He doesn't have an inner monologue. He just speaks at all times.
Yes.
And then in this show, it's good about balancing that, where it's not like he's not quipping every single second, but like he has like genuine thoughts and concerns and stuff. And like one of the plots of the first episode, one of the subplots is that Aunt May is trying to pay her bills and is keeping it a secret from Peter. Peter realizes this and wants to collect a bounty on the lizard, of a photograph for the lizard to pay for the bills. Which also, his first thought in that episode of what he's going to do with $1,000 that he's going to get for selling the photo of the lizard is to buy or to put a down payment on either a car or a motorcycle. Which like, you live in Manhattan. And you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know what Hollywood's obsession is with Spider-Man driving anything. But, the Raimi movies, he keeps using that stupid moped. That's funny because in the comics, he also drove, like, a motorcycle. And I think it's just...
buggy.
The spider buggy he did under duress. He did not want that stupid car. But yeah, no, he did drive that motorcycle. And I think it was just a way to, like, be, you're still a human being. Like, you can't just be like, I'd rather web sling. Like, he also has to leave Forest Hills. He can't swing out of Forest Hills. He's got to drive something. But he's just a kid, man. He wants a motorcycle, man. I get it. You want a car. But it is also like, dude, see the forest for the trees. You got web shooters. You don't ever need a car ever again. And you live in Manhattan. You just you're quick and you know which subways to take. Yeah.
You can walk like 30% faster than every normal human and no one will notice.
Right. Right. That's just
no one's going to care.
Incognito. We're not even talking about when you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The quips in this show are great, by the way. There's a great moment I was watching
the comedy is great in general.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
Spider-Man's
if some of it is
quips
intentional,
are great.
but like,
No, they're genuinely good. Like, I enjoyed them a lot. There's that moment where he says, I thought he was just a myth. Well, I guess I was myth taken. I like that.
That's great.
My wife groaned audibly, and I was like, that's what Spider-Man does. It's fun.
Dorky, yeah.
Yeah. And he's doing it for himself, like for his own benefit anyway. But like all the interactions are fantastic. That whole Doc Ock episode is great for humor and for like narrative, direction. The guy who plays Doc Ock, I still think of that German voice when I think of Doc Ock in my head. Yeah. But it works. I think it works so well.
I didn't question
Ed
it.
Asner as J. Jonah Jameson, brilliant.
Totally. There was another moment in the season 2 premiere where Kingpin through like a proxy is breaking everyone out of prison.
Yep.
And go and grab Chameleon's grabbing everyone disguised as a guard, and he's like, "You, Quentin Beck," and he's Quentin Beck's just like a normal guy,
right?
Mac Gargan, just a normal guy. He gets to Shocker's cell, and he just says Shocker, and he's in full costume.
He's in full costume. Yeah, no, because Shocker
laying in bed with the covers over him.
They don't show you Shocker's face, and you don't know his identity in the show.
It's so funny.
They're just like, that's Shocker. There's a great moment where Shocker's defeated. I think his suit gets torn by Rhino, and it's played by Jim Cummings, and he's just like, it's just, every once in a while you'll hear like Winnie the Pooh in Shocker, and and he's just like, but when he loses his suit, you just hear him on the PA, because all the Sinister Six have to communicate with each other, and it's like pre-Avengers Bluetooth tech, so they're all wearing these big
they sure
customer
are
service help like things, and he says, my suit is gone, my beautiful suit, and I'm like, this guy, all he cares about is being Shocker. That's who he's like, once I'm Shocker, that's the end of it. I don't have to do anything else. Like, I'm gonna dress like Shocker, I'm gonna sleep in my Shocker mask. Yeah, Shocker. Let's go. Yeah, it's amazing. Also, Chameleon, they had to like, I guess, I'm sure it was a network note. They were like, how will people know the difference between Chameleon and the people he's impersonating? And it's like, the point of it is that you don't. But how will children understand? Children are smart and they read comic books. Who cares? No. Give them a big, obvious, ugly belt.
That doesn't change, despite, like what a horrible flaw in that technology.
What a horrible flaw. Hey, it's Spider-Man with a big, garish belt. Hey, look, it's two Spider-Men, one of whom is wearing a big, ugly belt. Who's the real Spider-Man? How will we be able to tell? But the audience will know because they're stupid children. Like, it's just it's that across the board constantly. But like, you could tell the writers are working around all this crap by being whimsical and putting in fun stuff. I love the scene when Spider-Man fights the Scorpion for the first time, and he realizes that Scorpion's really insecure, so he calls him names and throws him into a rage. It's really good stuff. Overall, it's just really good stuff. And the voice cast just going nuts. I don't know if you saw the Hydro Man episode, but I feel so bad because they hired Rob Paulson, Yakko Warner, as Hydro Man, as Maury Bench in this show. Maury plays an abusive ex-boyfriend of Mary Jane's, and he gets Hydro Man powers off screen, and he's like, I'm going to use them to get Mary Jane back. And so Rob Paulson, who is he's Raphael, he's Donatello, he's Yakko, he's like Arthur and the Tick, like he's comedic characters. And they're like, no, we want you to act. So there's scenes where he's just like, he talks about how much he loves Mary Jane and he needs her. And he's screaming and he's yelling and he's crying. And I'm like, I've never heard Paulson ever have to do this much work. And everyone in this show is doing that much duty. The guy who plays Scorpion is always screaming his friggin' head off. Christopher Daniel Barnes is going for the same title. He's just like, Mary Jane! It's like, oh my God, everyone is screaming in this show. I feel so bad for them. It's great.
It's very, very dramatic. Very, I feel like it's reflective of the Raimi movies in terms of like the heightened emotion. Yeah. And which, that is, there's so many different flavors of Spider-Man.
Yes.
And after watching all these different shows, you can for sure categorize them. I'd be interested to sit down and figure out what is there a through line
of
Spider-Man are. Yeah,
right. Like, what's the differences? Where are they? Are there consistent differences between those Spider-Man?
Because I think it definitely college age Spider-Man. Anytime that happens, I would say even in the first Raimi film, that's college Spider-Man,
right?
Even though
he graduates
it's technically
within the first 20
not.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that definitely brings out a different Spider-Man
flavor.
Type, flavor.
Totally. Well, because for whatever reason, nobody wants to do that. I mean, it's funny that actually every version we've seen is college age Spider-Man. The animated series from '81, His Amazing Friends, this one, Unlimited, they're all college age Spider-Man. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's because he was college age for a long time.
He was college age longer than high school,
right?
But then he graduated
for 4 years.
He was in high school for 4 years, and then that was the end of it. And then he was in college for 10, and then he was post grad for another 25.
Right. They kept him in school for a long time.
yeah. He was working as a graduate student / temp in the 90s. So yeah. But this is a great show.
It is, for sure. I really enjoy this. This might be the one that I go back and actually watch so far, at least out of the lot that we picked so far.
They're easy to watch. I should say, because I did watch a lot of Morbius episodes, I hate Morbius so much, and this one he's so much
Morbius,
worse.
I forgot.
Morbius sucks so much. He's just this Transylvanian douche who shows up and he's like, I am very competitive and I hate Parker and I like Felicia. And then he gets Morbius powers from stealing Spider-Man's mutated neogenic blood and using it in his experiments. He gets bit by a bat and he becomes Morbius, and then he fights Blade. The guy who plays Blade has an insane voice. It's just, I've never heard a voice like that. I never will again. It's ridiculous. The cameos in this are off the charts. The animated series of X-Men show up in this show. Apparently it was a feat of insanity to make it work, because they were all Canadian and it was an American show, and they had to fly people to Canada to get them or fly them to America. And it was they were reusing animation. They weren't going to fly human beings to a recording booth. So it was a lot of work, but people still talk about it to this day. Like that Spider-Man crossover with X-Men is still to this day one of their favorites. To the point where Diamond made those X-Men the animated series bust figures, like it's just these statues, and also Spider-Man.
Also, Spider-Man was there.
Right, like from the animated series. There's no other Spider-Man the animated series bust that goes along with the X-Men ones. It's just Spider-Man and the X-Men, because that's how much people remember that crossover. And I'm like, I mean, that's fair. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But also nobody could punch anything or do anything. Also, the villain sucked. Another woeful waste of David Warner's talents. David Warner plays a throwaway villain who shows up again a couple more episodes later. But
the Gadgeteer?
No, I wish it were the Gadgeteer, man. David Warner be an amazing Gadgeteer. Anyway, Spider-Man, it's great, but it has a couple of flaws that for me I'm whew. But I nowadays, with a lot of like hindsight, I really appreciate the effort. I want there to be like a book that's like, this is what it took to make this show, because I'll bet it was a bear.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe you can write that. That'll be your opus someday.
That's a bitch and a half to do, man. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Because I'm talking about
especially like how old this show is.
Right? Yeah. Well, you gotta. Yeah. A lot of people are gone. It's oof. Anyway, Spider-Man.
So next week Hawkeye starts. If anyone's tracking this little
show.
Experiment we're doing. So Hawkeye starts next week. So we're not gonna be talking about animated shows or anything for a while until Hawkeye ends. But
right, if we're not going to do Avengers United, they stand.
No, next time. But yeah, so stay tuned to the channel. We're starting Hawkeye. It's exciting times. Other than that, this has been Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan. That is Sal. Stay tuned. Like I said 4 times now. See you later.